Hello everyone. I wanted to make a little video here on some of the more common troubleshooting steps I use as I'm working through some of the problems that my customers are facing. So, one of the most common issues that we face is customers, obviously, their users are contacting them saying, hey, for example, my VPN isn't working. So maybe they've got a Cisco AnyConnect device that's using NPS as the radius server for authentication, and they don't manage the Cisco device. They just manage the NPS server. So they go into their event logs. They look for events in the NPS, and they find that user. Okay, here's the user. This some guy is getting rejected. Okay, so why is some guy getting rejected? Well, when you go to the bottom here, this is all you see. Once you put the MFA extension on there, those DLLs sort of step on top of the NPS event logging. The information is still there. It's in a slightly different format. So let's go and let's look at that. So this was at 11:38:45. So down in application and service logs, under Microsoft, under Azure MFA, you've got two folders, auth-in and auth-z. These are for the two DLLs that get loaded. Auth-z is the one that's doing the heavy lifting here and talking to Azure, performing MFA. The admin log typically is only going to log events if your certificate expires or there's something wrong with tenant settings. That'll be logged here, but all the rest of it's going to be down here in this auth-z opc. So if we go to 11:38:45, where that user failed, here's the event that is actually being logged. Now remember, the one up here in NPS, all it said was third-party DLL, I don't know, it rejected the connection. It's not much information. So when we go down here and we look at the event down here, it gives us a good deal more information. So what this is saying, remember, read these from the perspective of the DLL. So it's saying NPS extension for Azure MFA only performs secondary auth for radius requests in access accept state. Request received for user some got any errors with response state access reject, ignoring request. So what that means is the MFA DLLs is saying, hey, I only perform secondary authentication when I receive requests in an access accept state, meaning when I receive requests that have gone through and passed primary or first factor authentication. This request for this user came to me in an access reject state, so I'm ignoring it. I'm not going to perform MFA if we can't pass the first factor. I'm not going to do multi-factor. So that makes sense. So when you put those DLLs on here, this is where you're going to do the vast most of your troubleshooting. That doesn't mean you should ignore these, because there may be other fundamental entries in there. For example, let's see if we can find anything. Let's see an error here. Okay, no domain controller, right? And you may have other errors here, like, for example, let's say the IP address of your radius client has changed. Well, in the list of radius clients, you define them by the IP address. So if the request is coming from a different IP address that's not in your list of allowed radius clients, then what you're going to get in your event log is errors saying radius request received from an unknown IP address. And so you need to update your list of radius clients, those kinds of things. So you need to be able to use both logs here. All right. So let's say, though, that your client swears up and down that they use the right passwords. So When we go back over here and we look at this, it's saying it's received an access reject state, so that means primary authentication has failed. So primary authentication happens when the NPS server takes the credentials that it was sent, it sends those credentials to the domain controller, and the domain says yay or nay. So why would you fail primary authentication? Well, username is wrong or the password is wrong. There's other reasons, but those are the two primary reasons. I'm going to cover the ones that you're going to run into the most. Okay, so the user tells the Cisco guy, I'm absolutely positive I put my password in correctly. I typed it in Notepad, then I pasted it in, right? So therefore, why would this be failing? Well, a fairly common problem is that the shared secrets between the two, between the Radius client and the NPS servers don't match. So when you're using PAP as the authentication method, your encryption key for the password is the shared secret. And so if we go, let's launch Wireshark here, all right? Now I'm using another tool called ntRadPing. So if you don't know about ntRadPing, you want to go ahead and learn about this tool, but basically this is a lightweight tool that lets you generate a Radius request. So this becomes your Radius client, which means you have to create a Radius client entry to make sure that your NPS server is going to accept and process those requests that come in. But we've got this in. Let's send the request. All right, so I'm waiting here. Let me go over here and look at my MFA device. There we go. And there's the accept. Okay, so that's how we want everything to work. Well, let's change it up just a little bit. The user says, I'm absolutely positive that I am typing in the password correctly. Okay, so let's send another request. Oh, something has failed. Now, one of the things I did here inside of Wireshark that you might find useful is I added a new column for Radius user. That just makes it very easy so that I can see which request is for a given user. And the way you do that is you right-click here, you go to Column Preferences, you add a new column, and in that column, you give it a name, whatever you want the column to be called, and you can add a filter here, radius.user_name. And so that data gets stripped out, and that becomes the data that fills this column. So that's very useful. So the problem is, I can't say with certainty that the password that the user entered is correct. Is there a way I could see that? Well, there is. If PAP is your authentication method, and we know PAP is our authentication method here because we see this attribute, user-password, that's used in PAP as the authentication method between the two devices. So in Wireshark, if you know what the shared secret is, you can go down here to Preferences, you can go to Protocols, go to Radius, and enter your shared secret. Once you hit enter here, it's going to decrypt the password. So you see the password is now in readable format. So you ask the customer, I need you to confirm the password is the password. They say yes. You say, well, okay, that's what's up. In this case, it's a little bit tricky because, as we know, our passwords have to be very precise. Go over here to my MFA device, click approve, and now I see the accept. So here, so what has changed? So there's the one that failed, and here's the one that passed. Well, now I can see they typed the right words in, but in fact, in one case, they didn't use the right syntax. Okay, so this was our user actually typing the password incorrectly. But let's say that your Cisco guy, when you type in the shared secret, we send it again. Look, we got a very quick reject. So now I've typed, I'm decrypting it with the shared secret that I know. And in this case, as you can see, the decrypted password is this. This is what gets sent to the domain controller. That clearly is not the right password. And so your shared secrets have to match exactly, syntax, everything, right? So this is how you can confirm that the shared secret that you think that you are using is in fact the correct shared secret. But let's say that in Wireshark, it is correct. The shared secret that the VPN client is using is correct because I can see here in the packet it's correct. So that means maybe the shared secret that I am using for my Radius client is wrong. How can I confirm that? If I go into my Radius client entry, I can't actually see that. Well, you can actually export it and look at your, if you right click here and you say export configuration, it will tell you when you export Radius client or remote Radius server shared secrets, ensure exported file, blah, blah. It's telling you you're about to export everything. That includes the shared secrets, which are in the clear in the exported file. So if we go here and we say, let me close this because I've got it open and an old version open. I want to say exported NPS XML, save that. Yep, I'm going to replace it. And now what I'm going to do is go to the desktop. I'm going to open this with my browser because the browser can format XML pretty nicely. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type in what's the name of my Radius client. The name I gave this one is 10.2.x.x. Go over here, do a Control F, 10.2.x.x. Okay, client friendly name. So that is a different location. Let me try the next one. Next. Okay. So here's the name for the actual Radius client entry. The other ones were where we're doing some, we're proxying the request somewhere else. So in that, you can see here, there's the shared secret. So I can confirm that the shared secret that I think NPS is using is in fact the shared secret that we are using. So these are some of the tricks on how you can troubleshoot a shared secret if PAP is the authentication method between NPS and the Radius client, so that you can actually decrypt and see that it is what you think it is. Okay, so hopefully you find this information useful. I try and not add too much fluff in there, but these are the very common things I use pretty much on a daily basis when I'm troubleshooting Radius and MFA extension issues. If you got any questions, be happy to answer them. Just either send me an email, or better yet, like the video, and you can ask me in the comments. I'll be happy to answer them in the comments, so that way everybody will be able to see your question and the answer, and we all can learn together. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.